to invite now on stage two guys. They are a nerd and a journalist, as they said themselves, but at a tech conference, this is not surprising, right? Everybody is that. So what they said about themselves that you wouldn't know is that they're both a partner, one of them in a dairy company and one of them in a distillery. So talking at a tech conference. So you can hear more what they have to say themselves. So Tarmo and Jon, please join me on the stage. And let's give them a warm welcome as well.
Thank you. Should we sit? I think it's for the half an hour chat, more natural position.
Sure.
I mean, we will open the floor for the questions probably somewhere around the middle. Kai promised to give me one of the catch boxes to throw around. Whoa, thanks. I know Jon for probably almost 10 years. I was working in different medias covering Opera software while he was still running it. He built up Opera software, which is, I think these days still the #4 browser globally, or maybe #5.
Thereabouts.
From zero, writing the code for it himself with a co-founder who he says was a bit better coder than he was.
A lot better.
But building it from the ground up, kind of from the zero into an IPO, which is probably the dream many investors tell to all the startups in the room, you know, you should scratch from your slide deck because no startup will do an IPO, or it will be 1 in a million, so you should not plan for it. And then being ousted from your own company.
Yeah. I mean, disagreements with investors about the direction of the company, 7 hours of fighting, and then just deciding, okay, this is, I can't continue to fight. I need to actually take a leave and do something else.
And the something else for you was building a browser company.
Yeah, but not straight away. I mean, so what I did, I'd been building browsers for so many years. I mean, 17 years building a browser. So I kind of know how to do that. But I was thinking, so I spent 17 years building a browser. I'll continue to use it for all time. I'm pretty happy with the 17 years that we did. We built a wonderful piece of software. All my friends are still working there. And I have no other reason to do anything else. So I started investing in various companies, dairy company, and others, and was thinking, okay, I'm not going to do browsers anymore. And then something changed.
What was the thing which changed?
Well, what changed is that a couple of years after I left, or I think the decision in many ways was made fairly quickly, was they took 19 years of work and they threw it down the drain. I don't know, I mean, I think in the history of tech, it must be one of the biggest mistakes ever done. Take 19 years of work, really skilled people, fantastic piece of code, and you throw it down the drain. And not only did they do that, but they also decided, okay, we'll take the browser in a different direction. And by the way, I mean, also invest in a lot of strange things like advertisement instead of putting all the effort into building a great browser. And in that setting where they said, okay, let's throw it all away. We have a really kind of browser with a lot of features. Let's build a browser with no features, not even bookmarks. And they put that out, and I contact my friends and say, hey, guys, what happened? What happened? Kind of, when are you coming with a browser with bookmarks again? When are you getting all the other things in? And I quickly realized that this was a different design philosophy, and a lot of my friends, the users that had been helping us build Opera, they were not happy about the decisions, and neither was I. I was trying to look, okay, can I continue to use Opera? Can I take Firefox and tweak it to make it mine? Can I take Chrome and tweak it and make it mine? And I think I came to the same conclusion as so many other people, is that none of these browsers were good enough. Not for my use, and by the way, not for your use. So,
after the lunch break, the good question is, of course, how many Vivaldi users we have in the room?
Yes, that's good. And how many of you others think that you have the best browser in the world? One. You're wrong.
He's the rebel. It's a startup event. There
Yeah,
should be one, right?
Yeah, there should always be one. But really, guys, you should ask the guys that have made the conscious choice of choosing Vivaldi, and you should listen to them and listen to me. Or actually, more importantly, you should download it and try it for yourself. It's the only way that works. So if you download it and don't like it, send me a mail. If you download it and like it, send me a mail as well. Thank you.
I mean, that comment of yours about sending an email to you, I've heard about this, all the CEOs or founders are talking about emailing with the first 1,000 clients. You have the 1 million active users.
Yep.
If he actually sent you an email, what year will you reply?
I try to reply to every mail and as quickly as possible. It's not too bad.
Okay.
You know what? It's not too bad. I don't get a million mails per day. And I do have a nice email client that isn't out yet, so.
Okay. The Vivaldi mail client.
Yes.
I'm waiting for that.
It's really good.
The sending the emails back and forth, building the community. I mean, Opera was known for having a lot of free workforce, or people who thought the same way, helped you to build the browser, which would be alternative to any American product on the market. Of course, then it became Chinese one, but we kind of covered that story. How have you been able to kind of first build a community with Opera and then taking it, or you can't take the community kind of comes with you, right?
Sure.
Coming with you to Vivaldi.
Well, I mean, there was a community around Opera. There was a community that liked what we are doing, it liked the philosophy, followed us and supported us. And they helped us grow the community of Opera users to 350 million on a month. So from that perspective, it was really a question, okay, a lot of those people were unhappy with the decisions made by Opera. So let's go and build a new community for them. And so as soon as we announced Vivaldi, there was something strange that happened. Well, there was a lot of people that became volunteers. A lot of the sites that used to be kind of Opera fan sites, if they hadn't been closed yet, because a number of them were closed after I left. But a number of them, they just changed to Vivaldi. And so a lot of people followed with us. And in a way, I mean, we are building the browser for those people that care. This is not a business for us. We are building a browser for our friends. Anyone that wants to be our friend is welcome. But it really is about building a fantastic product, focusing on the end user, listening to the end user, and continuously improving on what we are building.
But you eventually want to make money also with it, no?
Well, the beauty of it is, we do have a business model. I mean, we need to make enough money to pay the bills. In the meantime, I'm funding it, right? That's how it's working. But as we grow our user base, we need a few million users. We're closing in on the 1 million. And then with a few million users, that's when we break even. And the revenue is from like search and a couple of the bookmarks we include also generate some revenue for us. So it's very simple. We just focus on building the best possible browser, and that's all.
And you're not looking for investors here?
No.
No. Do you look at the investment objects, companies to invest in?
Not actively. And the reason, I did this for the 2-year period, right? I didn't know what to do. I was thinking, okay, I can try to sit on the other side of the table. So in a space of about 2 years, I invested in about 10 companies directly. I also, I'm part of the Founders Fund in Oslo, which has invested in something like 40 companies. I am supporting the internet, the startup community. I also have the Innovation House, which is a place for startups to locate themselves. I have one in Iceland. I have the Innovation House Resort in the US, where I'm residing, where we welcome startups to visit. It's kind of weird, but it works as a resort to go out and think in a different setting. So it's my way of giving back to the community, supporting all the startups. I try to as much as I can, but this was a way to do that without investing in all of them. Because when I invest in a company, I invest my brains, and my brains can't handle a lot more than what I'm doing right now. Sorry, I wish, but that's how it works.
I mean, I have to say, I love one fact about your investment philosophy. If any of the startups would come to pitch to Jon with a pitch deck, which has an exit slide there, how would you react?
I think I would dig into it a little bit, and do you really mean that? And if I get that, you really mean I'm the wrong investor. For me, there has to be the long view. It has to be about, okay, how do you want to change the world? So if you start the presentation with space and end it with 3-year exit, I'm just not the right guy. I mean, I'm not interested. It doesn't turn me on. I mean, it's actually turns me off, big time. I mean, it's just, okay, you're in it for the money, that's fine. I hope you do well, I hope you are successful. But if I'm going to support something, it has to have a meaning. There has to be a reason. You have to have passion. You have to want to change the world in a positive way. And if that's not what you're wanting to do, I don't know. I mean, then there's plenty of others that can do everything they can for you.
Before going to questions, I want to cover one more topic, privacy. I think many in the room have probably given up their privacy for good and are relatively comfortable with it. I mean, I checked in on Foursquare this morning that I'm here, Facebook targets that I'm here, and so on and so on and so on. I mean, what's your take on the current privacy situation?
I mean, in some ways I have this, can I swear?
Yes.
What the fuck happened? Sorry, but I mean, it used to be, if I get information about my customers, I keep them for myself, right? I don't share it with anyone else because either I'm doing something illegal or something wrong, or both, probably. So the concept of getting information on my customers, I would keep them very dear. And I mean, there's a lot of rules and regulations last time I checked, definitely in Norway, about what you can do with that information. So what happened there where suddenly, wherever I go, everything I do is being tracked and used for marketing purposes? So I look at a computer, that's fine, but for the next 2 weeks, I see ads everywhere. On my PC, on my mobile phone, everywhere I go, there's information about this or similar product or something related to the fact that I looked at this computer. Now that's a nuisance. But the problem with the targeting, that in some ways, if you are a startup or something and you'd like to target potential customers, it's really nice to be able to target people that are likely buyers. But what if that is also a tool to target people for other reasons? Then it starts to be a bigger issue. And we are starting to see the discussions around this coming up, that this is being used for propaganda, for manipulation, for psychology. A number of us heard about Cambridge Analytica. I was in New Orleans and I met a company that had kind of similar idea. I wouldn't say similar because I think they were wanting to do the right things, but with similar principles. The group was a group of psychologists and some hackers working together to build a solution. And my problem here is there's a question, is this technology on balance good or bad? So my thinking is our good friends at Google and Facebook and others, they've gone too far. A few years ago, it wasn't possible to target this way. I think the world was fine then. I don't think this technology is necessarily needed. I think we can do the marketing and the like without having the level of information and this kind of big data proposal with regards to individuals. I think it's problematic. If someone can find a solution to that, I'm open to suggestion. I'm not saying we need to totally turn this around, but I think that's a quick way to solve a lot of problems. So if we tomorrow decided, okay, we had these privacy laws, they're not being followed, or at least the spirit of those privacy laws is not being followed, why don't we, if necessary, change the laws to actually say that this can't be done anymore because it's on balance a bad thing?
But I think somehow this thinking has got through that mostly we think that it's some kind of the snowball effect which is happening anyway, and we can't really stop it. I mean, is there a way to stop it? If all those guys in the room would do something, could they somehow do something to stop it?
Of course you can. I mean, if there's one thing, we can use even the system for this. We have a voice. If we use our voice and we say, okay, this is far enough, we should do something about this, and we put pressure on our politicians, and we put pressure in the media. And I think actually it would solve a lot of problems. I mean, if you think about it, if you want to put an ad out there, you would like to know where that ad is placed also. Currently, you have no way of knowing. You're just targeting a person. If that person is going to a site that you do not want to be associated with, yes, you can avoid that, but it's really hard. You say, okay, you want to check out, either you check out all blogs or not. I mean, there's a lot of things like this which is highly problematic, so from various different sites. So I would be worried if I'm putting an ad out there and it would land on, say, Breitbart or something like that. I would see that as a problem, and I wouldn't like that to happen. So there's a lot of sites here that are problematic, where the ad market has changed in a way which is not beneficial to a lot of people, including the media, I would say.
Yeah, I totally agree, kind of from the media side. I would love to throw this somewhere. Who wants to ask questions? Hopefully somebody from the far away. No? Just throw it. Nah, we can continue. If they don't want to see me throw it. I mean, Vivaldi now is at roughly 1 million users. You need a few times more.
Yep.
What's the ways to grow the user base of browsers? I mean, I guess most of these people here use Google browser. I saw some people over 60 years. They probably use Internet Explorer. There's a few Firefox users here, and the 3-4 Vivaldi users.
Yep.
I mean, you need from 3-4 to go to 12. What's the trick there?
Well, obviously, all of you are going to download Vivaldi today, right? So that's a good start. No, but really, it actually is word of mouth. So we built Opera from the very beginning to 350 million, and most of those users were through word of mouth. So it works. If you build the right product, and you have an active community, which we do, and we work closely with the community. I mean, it's a really close cooperation. And I don't know of many companies that do things as extensively as we do. So we work with, we have a few hundred volunteers. So they help us translate the browser to more than 50 languages. They help us test the browser.
There is Estonian version?
I think so.
I don't know.
I need to check. I should have known this.
Sorry.
So, so we have, 50 languages. It does include Icelandic. So there's 330,000 people in Iceland, and we support Icelandic. And there has been talk of Klingon.
And that's needed.
Yes.
There's more people surely there.
Well, there's a few Klingons around. But I mean, the basic principle of adapting to the user, and I think that's really, it should be a basic thing. You do what your users want, and we have that as a principle. So we put it then onto our community site, which typically, if we put out on a blog or something, thousands to tens of thousands that read that and follow it, then typically a number of news sites also follow up on that. So that's the channels that we have, the feedback that we get. We get feedback from users, what they like, what they don't like, what we should invest in, what we should improve. So it's a continuous process. And I really think the importance for us is providing the best possible product, listening to our end users, taking what they say seriously. And when we say we take every single user seriously, we mean that. We do. That doesn't mean that there may be a user out there that says, you know, I want a feature, and we get the feeling that no one else wants it, and it's going to take us 6 months to implement. It's just going to go further down in the list.
Yeah.
But if someone says, you know, I'd really like to see that, and we see, hey, we could do that in 10 minutes, then we just do it, or a day. Or maybe a developer thinks, hey, that's a good idea. And then the developer decides, okay, I'll do it. There's not so much process in some ways, just do whatever people are asking for, and then we obviously discuss the implementation to make sure it looks beautiful, it's coherent, etc.
I mean, I have to market two things. I have to market, of course, Estonia. You should go and visit the e-residency guys. I think it's a beautiful example of what can be done on the web.
Sure.
They're kind of taking down the kind of national borders online. And I have to market, of course, Co-Founder magazine. When you leave the venue, do pick up your copy of Co-Founder. We brought them for everybody here.
That's great.
What's your take on e-residency? On this Estonian e-residency thing, have you got into it at all?
You need to.
I have to do a longer talk to you than we can do in front of the
we'll
audience.
do it afterwards then.
Yeah. Let's go a bit back on the kind of investment and investors. What was the first experience with external money coming into the company?
Well, I mean, we had a near-death kind of experience with opera. It's kind of a funny one if it isn't so sad. So we spent a lot of time discussing with an investor about them coming in. We actually signed an intention agreement, and we did that in the afternoon. And they were telling us how long-term they were, that they were supporting us all the way and the like. And they happened to own another company that was a modem company. So the next morning, early in the morning, I get a call. Hey, John, you know, I called the modem company, and you know what? They don't want to bundle your browser. I think we should get out of the browser business, and you should be consultants instead. For some reason, that deal didn't go through.
For some reason.
Yeah. And we had, I mean, we had a number of others. We had an offer for a significant amount of money to be sold. We had various discussions where we had people wanting to jointly invest in us. I think almost every big telco at some stage was wanting to invest in us. But it didn't happen, meaning mobile phone companies.
The kind of the offer for your company, you had built it like 3, 4, 5 years. There was a lot of money on the table. What gave you courage to say no?
Well, we were just happy where we were. I mean, we had the discussion. So if we get bought by this American company, we would have to move to the US. We don't know what that would mean. We couldn't control our time anymore. They could close us down next week if they find out that we're not strategic to them anymore. The fact that they were promising that we could do whatever we wanted to do, I guess we didn't totally buy that. We just wanted to have our own way. We were doing fine. We were profitable. Why should we sell to this company even though it was maybe a big X times our profits?
I mean, looking at the startup scene today, if somebody comes with a big check, it seems that many people are, happy to take the money and run and think that, I have a clause, I have to do 2 more years of this thing, but then I'll build the next company and make money again. There's not so often you can see people are kind of totally dedicated of building something in a way for the sake of building something.
Well, there's always the question. I think there's more to it than that. But I mean, in some ways, the community around startups, there's a lot of focus on this. You have to provide an exit strategy. You have to kind of have this plan to give the investors their money 10x back in 3 years. And one, it's not realistic. And two, if you do, I mean, if you're planning for that, you're not planning for the future. And then what happens, you plan for this rapid growth, and when either it succeeds and you sell, or it fails miserably, and there's no way for you to continue. Maybe your company could have continued to grow if it didn't try to grow too quickly. In many ways, when we started working in 1994, there was this other company called Netscape, right?
I remember.
Yes.
I think some other people in the hall might remember too, but some of them were not born that time, I think.
Sure, and yeah. So anyway, Netscape was this kind of really popular company out there. And they had a lot of users, and they went to the market, and they were the darlings of the market. And then they crumbled with very tough competition coming from Microsoft, and they disappeared from the market. And in the meantime, we'd lived on our $6,000 in starting capital. And after they were gone, a couple of years later, we got our first round of financing. So we started about the same time. So it's kind of like, in some ways, you can talk about the turtle and the hare. The turtle wins. So in comparison, the hare really blew it this time. I mean, they disappeared from the market, and in the meantime, we continued growing year by year. And I mean, we were there 15 years later.
I mean, a lot of those hares disappear on the market. We were earlier talking about this, was it Icelandic case, where they raised 100 million, built a beautiful case, and died within 12 months?
Well, what happened? They had a beautiful, beautiful app, the QuizUp thing. And it is an interesting story, and you can learn from it different things. So they went to the US, they got a lot of money, they got a lot of hype, and suddenly there was an offer for the company, they said no, and obviously some people then say they should have sold. But a year later they were gone. And to me, obviously they're overstretched. So the question is, should they have sold or should they have moved slightly slower? Had a longer runway, allowed themselves to fail and still continue. The problem was when they had difficulties, they disappeared. And that's really sad because, I mean, you see companies like that and you're thinking if they had done things slightly differently, maybe they would have actually continued to grow and succeeded.
One last chance to ask questions from Jon. No, they still don't believe in my throwing ability, or they are just Estonians. I think they could be 1 + 1 is 2 in this case. I think our time is up. Whoa, sorry. He gave me the ability to throw it. Thank you.
I have a question. How does the Vivaldi browser deal with memory? We know that all browsers deal very badly with it when it comes down to all sorts of web pages being open for number of days, etc.
So, okay, so the way it works for me, I mean, I run my browser all the time, right? And I have the typical amount of 30, 40, 50, 60 tabs running at any one time. We have a lot of very nice tab handling for that. The key there is that we lazy load the tabs when we start. So you're starting with 60 tabs, but you're only loading a handful. And if it gets too much, you can put them to sleep. You can actually hibernate them. We have a function to hibernate background tabs, and that's a really good way to be able to handle the load. So you're right. I mean, you should be able to have 100 tabs. We have a system that allows you to have 100 tabs. But again, I mean, if they're all very busy, you just put them to sleep.
Or you can try that the same one with a Microsoft Edge or Safari browser, right? 100 open tabs.
Yeah, you should try and see what happens.
Good. Any more questions? No?
It's the last chance.
Now, Jon will be around, so you can catch him in the hallway. There is one on the back there. Thank you, especially for your good location. Almost. I almost made it. Sorry.
Testing. Where's the microphone? Oh, here it is. Hi, Jon. Thanks for your awesome work. I would like to give you the ideal opportunity to pitch why I should use Vivaldi, because currently I'm a Vivid Chrome user. So I would like to give you the pitch to why should I use Vivaldi over Chrome, for instance. And yeah.
That's a good one. I mean, you're a smart man, so already you've understood this, right? So the first thing is, we're all different and we're all special, right? I'm coming from Iceland, and I think that's one of the things you learn when you're coming from a country with 330,000 people. And I think you realize the same. Everyone here, you should feel special. We're all special. But that also means we have different opinions on how things should work. So the idea of taking something and simplifying it to some common, to this one person, or I mean, this average person. I don't know what that average person is because I don't think it exists. So given that you're all special and you all have different opinions, and you're using, how many of you have more than 10 tabs open at one time, for example? Most of you. So the issue there is that the other browsers, they get you to start with one tab, things like that. They're all thinking that you should be using things in a certain way. You shouldn't use history, you shouldn't use bookmarks, you shouldn't use the keyboard, you shouldn't use mouse gestures, you shouldn't have the tabs on the left, you shouldn't have the tabs on the right, you shouldn't hide the tabs, you shouldn't have zooming. All those things we do have, because we believe that if you ask us to provide something for you, we should provide that, because you're unique and you should get it that way. And over time, as we get all those requests from all of you, we put it all in there, and you have the perfect browser for all of you, because you can all tailor it, you can all change it. You want to use the keyboard shortcuts? I do that, that works beautifully. You want to use the mouse gestures, it works the same. So it's about the individualism. And you can still keep your Chrome extensions if you want to use them. Vivaldi can use most of the ones that you'd like to use anyway. A lot of them you may find you don't need, and the fact that you don't need as many extensions means the browser works more efficiently. Is that a decent answer?
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. There is a little something to remind you of Estonia, so you wouldn't lose your luggage.
Thank you.
Thank you.